Here's a rundown of the key points from Quiz 6. So, who are the Sophists? The Sophists are, first of all, educators. But what they taught was what caused controversy. What they taught was the ability to argue. There's a market for this because Athens had become a democracy, and so there was a need to be able to persuade people to your opinion. And this boiled over into other aspects of Athenian life, as we see dramatized in Clouds, or rather satirized. So, but the thing is that the Sophists taught the ability to argue as effectively as possible, regardless of the position being taken. And in fact, the Sophists would train their students to argue all positions of a question in turn, to be able to take any point of view and all points of view on a particular question. And so this is offensive to somebody who's looking at this from a standpoint of, truth and justice and morality, because, this gives you the ability to argue any position regardless of whether that position is justified or moral or honest. And, this is what we see happening at the very beginning of Clouds. Aristophanes is appalled by this idea, and he shows this by having Strepsiades go to the thinkery, the place of the Sophists, in order to learn how to argue away debts that he legitimately owes because of the profligacy of his son. So, this is in contrast to how philosophers think of themselves. Philosophers see themselves as going about the creation of new knowledge and the fostering of inquiry in order to produce new perspectives and new ways of thinking that can generate new knowledge. This is philosophy. The love of knowledge is designed to be a crucible for the creation of the ultimate human understanding of the world around us without need for revelation from the gods, which is how in the ancient world people used to think that knowledge was acquired. So philosophers are seeking new knowledge, seeking inquiry. Their point of view of the Sophists is Sophists are teaching solely the practical benefits of rhetoric and reason. What can rhetoric and reason do for me? Well, I can improve my life by convincing other people of false things in order to increase my own power. Demagoguery. I can argue away things that are incumbent upon me, so on and so forth. The prospects for the misuse of sophistry is of deep concern to traditionalists like Aristophanes, as well as to universalists. What is the debate about Nomos versus Pisces about? Well, this is what we've been talking about. Short version, and I already talked about this in other videos, but Nomos is the idea of convention, naming. The word nomos means name. The root of this is things are true because people say that it's true. What is true is what people believe. And if tradition is very strong and tradition holds power over the thought of a community, then this can be rigid and unchanging. But if you're in a community where you can persuade others to new ideas, Nomos becomes a means of undermining everything that people used to think and changing it to something else. And morality and truth and justice can become like a weather vane. It can point wherever you can convince people to believe the points. And Nomos even under ordinary circumstances, because traditions are different, varies from city to city, from culture to culture, even from generation to generation. Nomos is normally in some kind of flux and diaspora of diversity. People might believe in one town that it's okay to put babies on spikes and mount them on the walls. People in the next town over think that's horrible. Nomos means the truth is what people believe that it means. And if you can sway people to believe something else, Nomos results in truth being ephemeral and meaningless, and without power to direct society. The alternative to this is Pisces. Pisces means that truth is embedded in the natural world. Universal truth and knowledge that is beyond human opinion, beyond the opinion of the gods, because gods are within this environment. The natural laws, natural truth, universal truths are embedded in the structure of the universe and unalterable. And so it's beyond even the opinions of the gods. The philosophers from Socrates' school believe that universal truth can be discovered through rational inquiry and stripping away things that are irrational and superstitious in order to discover what is left, in order to discover what is rational, what is meaningful, what is consonant with the base structure of the universe. And so somebody like Aristophanes, a traditionalist, is fearful of the perversion of Nomos using persuasion. And so he despises the Sophists who seek to persuade others or teach the ability to persuade others to new truths, discarding the old truths, to make knowledge and truth arbitrary. The Pisces point of view says that truth and justice is beyond what the gods believe, and so a traditionalist like Aristophanes despises the Pisces point of view also. And this is why we have a Pisces philosopher, the real Socrates, being falsely presented in clouds, so that Aristophanes can cast mud at these two targets at the same time, the Sophists and the Pisces philosophers like Socrates. For today, you read the rest of Clouds. What happens at the end? Well, spoiler alert, if you haven't finished, Strepsiades goes and burns down the Thinkery after his son beats him up. Now, this is an emotional reaction that is very much in keeping with a rejection of the pedantry of the character Socrates in the play. This character of Socrates in the play is using reason in a ridiculous way in order to repudiate the gods and tradition. This reduction to minutiae and navel gazing, that this path of following pure reason follows for this ridiculous lampoon false character of Socrates. And so the end of the play, Strepsiades rejects all of that and goes with his gut. His gut says he never should have turned his back on Zeus and Hermes, and he prays to them to forgive him for turning aside what he knew to be true, tradition and trust in the gods. He goes and seeks to burn down the Thinkery as symbolic of what Aristophanes is trying to accomplish, which is that sophistry and Pisces philosophy both need to be burned out of Athens, need to be wholly rejected from the Athenian mentality. Athenians need to go back to embracing traditional views and trust in the gods, as Strepsiades does when he finally gets a backbone at the end of the play and stops being twisted around and becomes a true Athenian. All the following is true about the Parthenon. The Parthenon is the big, nice-looking temple that's still there at the center of Athens. All the following is true except, well, it is situated on the Acropolis. Acropolis means a high city. Many Greek polis have a hill at the center or some kind of high point at which, because most of the Greek world is mountains or mountainous islands, So there's usually a place where you can position a city around the central prominence, and usually there's some kind of citadel or something that you can withdraw the people into. The Acropolis in Athens is actually fairly hard to get to, so it was very useful. Even back in primitive times, people would escape from raiders by going up onto the Acropolis, and much more defensible position. So the Parthenon is there, built on the Acropolis. The Athenian treasury was kept in the back. It was named for Athena the Virgin, which is what Parthenos means. The thing that's not true is that the people gathered there in public worship. Temples in the ancient world are not places for people to worship. As in the modern world, temples and ziggurats in the ancient world are places for gods to live in and for high priests to interact with those gods. What was the Agora? Well, what I always say, the Agora is the beating heart of the city. There's an Agora in every polis. If you remember from the discussion of the formation of the polis, what happens by the end of the Dark Age is that these farming communities have coalesced around a single large marketplace, and that is the kernel that's around which a polis is formed in the Dark Age. By the time we see the polis fully formed in the Archaic period, they all have this Agora at the center, which is a place where the marketing is done, but also where the people gather, where there's social interaction, where there's cultural reinforcement, where the festivals are undertaken. In many cities, it's where the assembly meets and the council gathers. In Athens, the council gathers there, but the assembly is too big. It meets on the Pnyx, the big field to the north of town. But in general, the Agora is the social center, and it's the place where customs and ideas are reinforced daily basis for the citizens. And that's the end of the quiz. Please email me with any questions.